When I was burnt out, I was a fertility acupuncturist, and I stopped caring if people got pregnant.
I think we can be in denial for a really long time about what our body is saying.
Let resentment guide you. It will tell you every single time where you are self-abandoning to please someone else. You are trying to manage yourself into optimizing other people's lives. You are never going to recover from burnout like that. Burnout recovery and burnout prevention are not the same strategies. Burnout prevention is stress management. If you are burnt out and someone tells you to do a gratitude practice, you have my full permission to punch them in the throat.
Hello and welcome to the Unlock Lab. I'm your host, Tosca DiMatteo, and I'm so excited for my conversation today with Cait Donovan. We are going to talk about burnout, and I'm thrilled about this because I really want to learn more about the technical burnout stuff, like the how do you know, like the basics. And I want you guys to know too, because I think a lot of people suffer from it and don't know. And I'm also really excited to talk to Cait today because we have known each other now for, I think, a couple of years. And Cait is just the most generous person. She's got an amazing speaking career, coaching business, and just platform to help people. So just all the vibes. So thank you, Cait, for coming on today. Like I really, I'm thrilled to spend this time with you. I know how valuable your time is. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
I am the luckiest to be here.
Like I'd love to take this moment too, to just like properly introduce the audience to who you are, what you do, why you do this work now. And just, I'll just like hand the mic over to you.
Chronic overgiver, people pleaser by way of trauma and probably nature. There's probably some nature in there. There's nature and nurture, or lack of nurture in this case. I was the lucky person who followed my heart. I went to pre-med school. I dropped out of pre-med, went to study Chinese medicine, loved it, got a master's degree in Chinese medicine, met a man while I was traveling in Argentina. He happened to be Polish, moved to Poland, opened an acupuncture practice in a foreign country in a foreign language, was very successful on TV and magazines. It's like big fish, small pond syndrome, right? There's only so many American acupuncturists in Warsaw. And by so many, I mean there was one, and now there are none. So I did a lot in a short amount of time. I lived a lot of life. I'm 42 now. I've lived a lot of life in 42 years. And when I was about 35, maybe 34, I had gone through 3 or 4 years of up and down health issues, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight again, thyroid, not thyroid, lump in my breast, not lump in my breast. Things are just all over the place. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. We had moved countries again. We were living in Prague, and I was only working 25 hours a week, and I was still tired and irritable. I had extreme fatigue. My friends would call and be like, let's meet for lunch. And I was like, do you think I'm the kind of person that has time to meet for lunch? I worked 25 hours a week. I had plenty of time for lunch, but I didn't feel like I had time for lunch. And I read an article. It was 2016. If I remember correctly, it was an article in Harvard Business Review, and it was about burnout. And I looked down and I started checking all the box. I literally had a piece of paper on my desk, and I was making check marks. I had never heard of burnout before that day. And once it started to unravel, I was like, oh, shoot. So then I did what I always do, is nerd out. My husband was doing a postgraduate degree at Cambridge University at the time, so I had access to university libraries. For those of you who like research, you know how much better life is when you have access to university libraries. I downloaded everything available on burnout, read through it, took me a year, didn't find any story that matched mine. That's the short version of why we're here today.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing wow. And now I'm just like, I'm kind of.
I know, I told you. A lot of life.
Like, yeah, because you were like, and I didn't find anything that looked like me. And so then what?
Well, then what? I went through, I am not the person, and these people irritate me. This is where I do not feel generous in my life. I am not the person that's going to tell you, I figured out burnout by myself, and now I'm here to like save the world. I did not figure out burnout by myself, because when I realized it was burnout, and I realized that regardless of the amount of knowledge I had on meditation practices and acupuncture, Chinese medicine, nutrition, lifestyle, Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga practice for 18 years, the whole thing, as much as I knew about all of these things, I still ended up here. So I probably don't have the knowledge that I need or the practices that I need to change this, which means I need help. So when I went through burnout, I had a coach, I had a therapist, and I had a nutritionist at some point, not all at the same time, but I went through all three of these things to find my way out. And it took all three of those things and about 18 months for me to crawl out. And what really irritated me about the research was that all of the burnout research is about doctors, nurses, and people that work in corporate offices. But I've always been an entrepreneur. I've never worked for anyone else. Even when I was in college, I was a bartender, which, sure, you work for the restaurant, but you are selling yourself. You're only making money if you're showing up in a way that people want to tip you for. So
Right.
I've basically been working for myself my entire life. I was like, I don't fit any of your scenarios. And you're telling me that there's these 6 workplace factors that cause burnout. And I'm over here like, well, that's not my life. So
Right.
what about me? How did this happen to me?
Wow. Yeah, makes so much sense. So can we talk a little bit about what are the signs? Like, how do you know? Like, and I was like running the gambit of like, maybe you're in a corporate thing and maybe you're doing your own thing, or maybe you're not even in a
Maybe
work.
you're a caregiver.
Yeah, exactly. Like a caregiver. Ooh, this, I'm excited. Let's dive in. Let's talk. No, because you know what? Like I see a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people, right? And and I'm just like, wow, like this is a lot that you do, and this is like this can't be sustainable, but you've been doing it for 20 years. Like how does this compute, and how do you actually get out of the spiral? But I know we're going to talk about that, but like first, yeah, like help me understand, and the audience understand, like what are those key signs that will help make sure, like, to help you understand if you're in the burnout stage.
This is where I go back to the research, because we do have a current agreed upon definition that is defined by the World Health Organization. And they are calling burnout an occupational hazard. So for those that are caregivers, they're kind of saying, well, no, this has to do with your workplace, which I don't like.
Right. There's like, obviously there's a problem there, but okay.
Obviously, there's a
Acknowledged.
glaring issue
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Right. And they're saying burnout is an occupational hazard that has 3 components. The first component is physical and emotional exhaustion, which, like, hi, COVID. How many of us are not physically and emotionally tired? The next one is cynicism and depersonalization. So my grandmother would call this being a negative Nancy. But this is really more obvious if you were typically a positive person before with a positive outlook and you had a shift in your behavior, in your actions, in your emotions. So you might not notice this if you were sort of already a cynical person beforehand. The depersonalization part is more of a feeling dissociated from other people. So you definitely feel like you're alone in this. No one else is experiencing it. No one can help you. No one understands how hard it is. You have a lack of connection to people, right? Which is a huge sign. And then we have part number 3, which is a lack of productivity. So what you used to be able to do, you can no longer accomplish in the same amount of time. And this, I think, is actually more important. You're doing your work as best you can, but you don't understand why it matters. You have lost any sense of impact or meaning to the work that you do. When I was burnt out, I was a fertility acupuncturist, and I stopped caring if people got pregnant. The only reason I cared that they were pregnant was because that meant that they were going to be off my schedule soon, because I was so busy and I had a wait list. And I was like, oh God, good. Next. But I wasn't feeling the joy of someone waiting 7 years for a child and finally getting there.
And I feel like these what you've mentioned so far might be hard for some people to really say, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Like, to your point, right? Because you were like, well, if you were this way already, it might be hard or like, well, I never really had a why, especially like maybe if you're in a corporate thing and you've never really been, joyful about that. So like what might people be able to do, or access to do that evaluation, or what might you recommend people do to really be able to say to themselves, yes, this is me, or no, actually, this isn't me.
So I think that when we break those three things down further, it becomes a little easier.
Mm,
If we go just into physical exhaustion, for me as a lifelong athlete, I lived 4 minutes uphill from the tram to my apartment in Prague. And I had to take a break halfway up that hill, 2 minutes in, because I couldn't make it all the way up the hill. And then I would cry, literally sit there and cry, thinking about how when I got to the top of the hill, I was going to have to get into my apartment and get my dog and take her for a walk. And I did not know how I was going to do it. The fatigue is so deep. If you had any sort of exercise routine, you find that that same level of exercise or even less exercise doesn't boost you. You know, like when you're in a good place and you do 30 minutes on a treadmill, you get off and you feel better. You feel
right,
pumped. When you're burnt out, you try and do anything and then you need a nap.
right,
So even especially if you've used it for years and years, you lose the capacity to do the same amount that you could do before.
right.
So this is
And
something that everybody can sort of dig into a little bit on their own.
yeah, and I feel like, and I'm just going to shout out, right, because I feel like there are people that have been in burnout, right, for so long that they don't. I'm assuming that they don't even remember, right, like that it's actually not supposed to look like this. That actually, yes, you are supposed to feel a little bit, the endorphins after the 30 minutes, right? Like, so I guess that kind of requires people to really dig in and say, like, does this make sense? If if the people that I'm around or whatever, right, aren't having this kind of reaction, then maybe I need to look at it and question, like, is this outside of the norm? I even hate to say normal, but you know what I mean, outside of what seems to be should be happening at somebody
Yeah.
my age with my health
Menopause,
level.
perimenopause,
Yeah, yeah,
depression,
yeah.
whatever it happens to be. Yeah, of course. And we should always look at all the things. The other piece of this is, and this is something that I think is really critical because this differentiates just being stressed from being burnt out. The
Mhm.
other difference is when you are just stressed or just tired, when you rest, you rejuvenate.
Mm.
So maybe by Friday, you're real tired. And you might throw out a comment that says, "Oh, I'm burnt out from this week." But you take the weekend off. And on Monday, maybe you don't love your job, but you're ready to do it. You're okay. When you're burnt
Right.
out, you could sleep on an island by yourself for a month and still be tired. There's
Mm.
no rejuvenation.
Mhm. Mhm.
You are not recovering during sleep the way that you're supposed to. So this is a massive differentiator. Like if you have been worried that you're a little too stressed out, that things aren't really great, you went on vacation, you had one good day, then you got a cold. Then you had that
Mm.
cold for 3 days. You came back from vacation. You're still tired. You need a vacation from your vacation. Now we're getting into danger zone. Then,
Right.
if we look at the emotional part, this is something that is usually, I know I said if you're already cynical, you might not see it, but where this shows up most is in our interpersonal relationships, whether at work or at home. Most commonly, when people hire me, one of their biggest complaints and things and goals to fix is I'm being a jerk to my family and I can't stop myself. I can see myself doing it, but I cannot hold back. And I don't
Mm.
want to treat the people at my work, in my household, in this way, but I'm like losing it. Like I have such a short fuse. I'm
Mm.
absolutely so easily triggered, and I know what's happening. I see it happening. I don't like the way I'm treating people, but I can't seem to stop it.
Mm. Yeah, that feels like a really good indicator of. And I want to ask something about just kind of going back to the physical stuff, right? Like, because I feel like our bodies give us so much information that we tend to ignore, right? And I think we can be in denial for a really long time about what our body is saying.
Of course.
And personal experience with that. I was in denial for a long time with having type 1 diabetes, and it was just like I had to wait until it was like so in my face, right, to like acknowledge that something was really wrong. So yeah, like you mentioned, right? Oh, you have the cold, and or you have the thing, and it kind of doesn't go away. But can we dig in about like what other kind of like physical symptoms might there be, or is it like, oh, the cold? Like, how can we give people a little bit more context for what the body's doing and can be an
So
indicator for?
this is really tricky because
Mm.
The only way that I can explain it is through Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine theory says that when we're born and throughout our lives, we get there are either by nature or by nurture certain sort of deficiencies that we either have or create that make us vulnerable to certain problems. So if you were born and immediately had a lot of allergy type issues, when you're burnt out, you'll have allergy type issues. So you have a constitutional weakness in that place, and stress will exacerbate it. So if you were 12 and say you traveled abroad and you got massive diarrhea and you had a parasite, when you're burnt out, you will likely have a lot of GI issues. So your stomach will bother you, your digestion will be off, you might have diarrhea again. The symptom that will come up for you will be where stress can jump into your body because there's already some sort of weakness. So maybe it's for you, it's migraines, maybe it's neck pain, maybe it's body aches, maybe it's GI stuff, but it can happen in any part of your body, depending on who you are and what's happened over the course of if you were in a car accident when you were 20 and you had major whiplash, maybe it's neck pain for you that shows up.
So it's so much sense. It's like where the weakness is where it shows up. And first of all, I love this. And I don't talk about this like a whole, I have gone to different types of modalities, like be it acupuncture, acupressure. Like I barely scratched the surface, but every time I go and then whatever thing I was dealing with was then addressed because there's all this information that's so different that we're used to receiving about our bodies and about how to solve it without a pill. I feel like this conversation is so timely because I feel like I have a lot of conversations right now with people that are their physical thing is off and they're doing all this to figure out what it is, like whether it's a functional doctors or medicine. I think you can't really call them doctors, right? Like, or like, the primary or all the testing. And one of the things I feel like I'm saying a lot is like, well, there's other things that you can like explore and look at that might be even faster to figure out, right, where the things are. And I do believe, that so much of the physical can come back to the emotional and can come back to like whether it's little T traumas, big T traumas, and and I'm not a therapist and I'm not licensed in any of that, but my own experience and my observations of patterns of people is like it's gosh, you can really see it. And what you're describing is like, and look to the past to say what pattern is here as a really great indicator.
Yep, it will take advantage of the weak spots for sure.
Yeah.
And while emotional things can be a source of physical problem, functional problem, also functional problem and physical problem can be a source of emotional problem. So even we know the power poses, Amy Cuddy, right? We know that how we stand changes how our endorphins function. We know that when we have better posture, we come across as more confident and interact as more confident. Both of those things affect each other. And I think over the past maybe 20 years, it got really popular to talk about, every disease has this emotional underling, but sometimes it's the opposite.
Right.
It works both ways. And I think we have to remember that when we are sitting all day, every day, like hand up emoji, I'm not judging you, I'm sitting all day, every day. When we're sitting all day, every day, that's not a natural position for our bodies. And so, yes, that has an effect on our vulnerability to burnout too, just because we're not moving enough in a way that's human.
Right. And I love this exploration, right? And the depth of this, because it's going to look different. It's going to present different. It's going to come from a different place. And I'm hoping that, the audience that's listening is paying attention to where their eyebrows are being raised and saying, oh my gosh, or like,
Yeah.
oh, there's the hit. Because that this is the thing that I'm always talking about, Cait, right? Which is like, we know, like, we have an inherent knowing. Are we listening? Are we paying attention? Are we looking at our patterns? Like, are we connecting dots? And so for anybody listening, I just want to say, like, um, honor, right? What new information is kind of raising an eyebrow for you, because there's probably something there. And I'm curious, actually, Cait, how you feel about even like intuition, because I feel like, when I'm assuming when you're in like a burnout stage and you've kind of lost track, you don't have that anymore. I'm assuming. Maybe can you like maybe share your thoughts about like how do we even touch back to our intuition if we're in a burnout stage?
I don't want you to yet. It's like not time for that because you don't trust yourself right now. When you're in a place where you don't trust yourself, you don't tap into your intuition because you don't trust that either. So I think what's interesting about what you're saying is like pay attention, see the signs, see the patterns, like make sure you're listening to yourself. And here's something that I find can be complicated for people to swallow when it comes to burnout. There's an idea called interoception. Do you know what this is?
No, no.
So, interoception is our ability to listen to our body's signals and respond appropriately, simply. But it can
Mhm.
be really deep and it can also be like pee when you have to pee,
Right.
right? But it can also be like touching into those emotions when you meet a new person and you're kind of like, there's something not right here. But maybe I should just ignore it because what do I know? And I don't want to be judgmental. So, interoception is our ability, and it's a brain-based, neurologically based ability tap into things. And it is my belief that, and there is some research to support, that adverse childhood experiences or big T, little t trauma, regardless, create changes in how your brain develops as a child. And when one of the habits that you must create as a child to keep yourself safe is hypervigilance of other people's moods, attitudes, positions, micro expressions on their face, whatever, you don't grow this interoception ability because your ability is tapping into other people's states all the time because that's how you keep yourself. Now, people call this empathy. Quite often, it's not you're an empath, it's that you are hypervigilant because you were traumatized. If you don't have a high level of interoception, you are more likely to burn out because you don't see or feel the signals.
What is yours? Like,
You
what
don't,
is actually?
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't feel it. And that's not your fault. This is one of my biggest messages across every platform I have ever spoken on is burnout is not your fault. If you got here because you missed a lot of signals, you missed a lot of signals because you were taught earlier in your life that other signals were more important. And it was successful for you, therefore you repeated it. We are not going to demonize your coping mechanism around here. You did it, it helped you, it probably got you pretty far. You're probably pretty successful. You're just also miserable and exhausted and hate your family at the moment. And you don't understand what's happening. On paper, your life looks good. So why do you feel broken? But so I think that this is one of the things that this knowledge is missing in a lot of life coaching practices because we do give this advice, listen to yourself, listen to your body. And people are like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. What are you hearing what are you like? What do you even hear? What? I don't know
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah. Yeah.
saying. One of our first things that we give people to start to rebuild trust and safety within their own bodies and rebuild a sense of interoception is called foundational self care. You guys, this is going to be so irritatingly basic, but I promise you, most of you are not doing it. And if you're not doing this, you shouldn't be doing anything else because this is base level step one. I gave you a hint on it earlier. Pee when you have to pee. Don't write 3 more emails. When you feel thirsty, get yourself a glass of water. Don't write 3 more emails. Don't take 1 more phone call. Go pick your kid up. Get a sip of water if that's all you can manage for now. Pee when you have to pee. Drink when you're thirsty. Nourish yourself with food when you're hungry. Move when your body is antsy. Rest when your body is tired. Close your eyes when they need a break from the screen. Meet your very basic signals. Most people, most women especially, and this is not, again, our fault. When we're children in school, we have to say, "Can I pee, miss?" And then they let us or they don't. So we're taught to override this signal all the time. You have to get back to understanding that you're an adult now. And if you have to interrupt a meeting for 60 seconds to go to the bathroom, you are allowed to do that.
And I think this advice is sound for anybody. And I think that we ignore it. Like, we may not even be in burnout and we don't do these things. And I know, like, I'm just like thinking also of my past, of like my patterns, and how it, like, I remember going to one of my like craniosacral therapy sessions, and she was just like, "You need a tissue, grab a tissue." And it was just like, that was so profound. It was like, oh, I'm needing something. I can actually take care of myself, right? And even just like even in corporate, right? And like rushing to go to the bathroom, like not even giving myself grace to like take my time, but like feeling like, I got 30 seconds to get her done, like it's crazy. But it makes total sense, like, to start here, right? Like with,
Start here. And this is how we get back to intuition. This is how we start to
yeah,
build trust. This is how we tell our bodies after 30 or 40 or 50 years, "Hey, I've got you. I've got your back. You're not alone anymore. Hey, I've got you. I'm here for you. I'm showing up. I'm listening. I've got you. I'm here for you. I've got your back." When we do this consistently, we increase our own internal feelings of safety. When we increase our feelings of safety, our brain can start to recover. There's a whole lot of neuroscience behind that statement, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
yeah. I love how you have so much behind it, and I'm just like speaking of like my my glucose monitor is like going off, and it's like, oh right, like I gotta pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Timing.
And we're in a
Timing's
podcast
hilarious,
episode, but
right?
okay, if your glucose monitor needs attention,
Yeah,
then
right. Like, then it is what it is, right? And to
yeah,
like, to not even, I mean, God, this is so meta, right? Because like there was a time where I would hide like my needs, right? Like, I have to, oh my
I
gosh, I
still do
need,
it.
yeah, yeah, right. It's like, oh, it's not convenient for me to like say, "Hey, can we pause?" And like, but that is honoring our needs, right? That is honoring like what is unique about our needs, and that it's okay and it's valid and it's not something to shame or be ashamed of, right?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, no, it's just very meta. What can I say? Um, but so did we do the service of the deeper investigation of the symptoms you talked about? Like, I just want to make sure, because I do want to get to. I love that we kind of started going into like, and what do you do, and like, and the other piece about what do you do is, if like, but actually pause, like, right, do you feel like we gave
I think
justice
so.
to, okay, okay, and if you think of anything else, let me know.
Yeah.
um, because like anything, I think people are like, "I'm just going to figure this out on my own. I
Mhm.
can do it. I can." So I love to talk about that, like, because I feel like with so much today, people just want to go and solve the thing, and they want to do the willpower thing, like, I can, if I just gonna put my mind to it, do the thing. So like, what is your perspective on how to really come out of burnout?
I don't think burnout is a DIY situation. And mostly because you need to learn how to function in an entirely new way. And you are very likely to miss things because it's impossible to be that objective with your own life. So there are going to be patterns at play that you don't see, you don't know how, and because you can't look at yourself that way. Also, when you are working so hard on rebuilding something as simple as interoception, when you're working on peeing when you have to pee, somebody else needs to be looking at the other things with you because you don't have that same level of internal knowledge. Somebody needs to be speaking with you, talking to you, looking at you and reflecting back to you the things that you're saying and doing and the way that you're acting. It's really almost impossible to do this without a mirror, a person as a mirror. It's so hard I'm still finding things out about myself 8 years later that I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't realize that was part of my thing too. Dang. It's 8 years. I have done nothing but read and write and speak about burnout since that time. And I'm still figuring things out. And I'm a nerd. So, like, I'm really digging into it here, folks. And I'm still missing things. Recently with a client, we came across this idea. We're like halfway through her coaching, and I keep coming up against a wall, and I can't figure out what it is. And I'm not one of those coaches that says, "Well, if you're not like willing to do the work, it's your own fault," kind of thing. It's like, no, there's a reason. There's a reason that you're coming up against that wall. And my job as your coach, I think, is to figure it out and to find it and help you over the wall. And I stopped and I said, "Oh my God, you're not recovering for yourself." And they said, "What do you mean?" We wrote goals that were about you, but every time we start a call and we're working on a goal, the goal is how to get you better so that somebody else's life is easier. You are trying to manage yourself into optimizing other people's lives. You are never going to recover from burnout like that. I typically do a 2-week break in between calls because we go deep on coaching calls. And people need time. You can't talk to me once a week. Your mind will fall apart. So we do one, and then we wait 2 weeks. You can talk to me through a Google Doc the whole time in between. We have ways of connecting, but you need time to practice things and let things. And this time I said, listen, you need to take an extra week. So we're not talking for the next 3 weeks. Blow my mind in a Google Doc. Write as much as you want. Write 87 pages. I don't care. But you have some things to mull right now. And that's what I need you to do. I got a message after 2.5 weeks that said, there have been some tectonic since our last call, because I realized that from the very beginning of this process, none of my choices have been, not really. I wrapped them up in things to make you believe that they were. You can't get there by yourself. Because she was very convinced. And so was I. She managed to convince me, and I read through people's bullshit like nothing.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah.
But she managed to convince me too. And it took us weeks just to uncover you deserve your recovery to be free.
So thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. And I think so reflective of the work that we both do,
Exactly.
which is like, really uncovering and really going deep and like looking at performative versus like otherwise. And,
that's a good way.
And again, in transformation, it's the same, right? It's like, it's hard to look at your patterns. It's hard to see your patterns without a mirror. And it always feels like self-serving when I say, look, you want to like up level, you want to get to the next point in your career. Like, you're not going to do it having the same conversation with yourself. You're not going to do it telling the same stories you told on your resume, that you've been telling for the past 15 years. Like, it just, and I'm and I always say to people, like, I'm a marketer, and like, I can't do it myself to put myself out there in the best, most empowered light, because I'm too close to it to see where I'm like, missing the ball. So what could be like, what can people do? And I would love to hear more about, how, if people want to learn more about what you do, work with you, or listen to your thought leadership and get more nuggets. Cause gosh, but I feel like we barely scratched the surface in our time. Like, where can people go to say, okay, you saying I can't do it alone. Now what?
You can't do it alone. My first step is go to the podcast. This is a free resource. There's 230 episodes. I try to really be clear with my titling. So the episodes do what they say on the box. You're not going
Right.
to find any tricks.
I'm looking at you for those listening. It's Fried, right? The Burnout
Fried.
podcast. Yeah.
Fried, the Burnout podcast. Yes. And there's only choose the ones that you want that appeal to you to start with. But my ask is this. As you go through them, you said something earlier that I really enjoyed, Tosca. You said, if you're listening and your eyebrow is going up, if you're getting that inkling that this might have something to do with you, write that thing down. Write it down and just give your brain a little bit of time. Ask yourself a question about it, whatever it is. Read that question every day in the morning. Just read it and then let your brain do its work. It's a wonderful way to get things started. I just said that I don't really believe in DIY. I do have people that have mostly used the podcast for their recovery processes. It just takes a hell of a lot longer than when you have someone. So, but the podcast is the best place to start. That's where you find all of our offerings, all of our services. And earlier in the beginning of the show, this is one of my favorite things. I talked about how resentment is my guide. Right? This is how I stay out of burnout now. I avoid burnout relapse by tapping into resentment. I have a resentment journal mini course. Like, if you're angry and you're mad at people aren't saying thank you enough, you don't feel appreciated, you're overgiving, you're caught in a people-pleasing cycle, go do the resentment journal. That will save you. It's like the best thing that I feel like Fried is the best thing I've ever created fully, but the resentment journal is like really second place. It's wonderful. Make those shifts first, because I only work with 3 people at a time anyway, and I don't ever want people to hire me because they're like, okay, well, I can't do it, so it's you. Dig in a little bit first. Dig in, play with it a little bit, and then come to me and say, you know what? I've taken this as far as I can. I need a mirror, and I need the extra knowledge, and that's when I'll serve you best.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like, first of all, I totally want to check out the resentment journal myself.
Oh, it's great. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And by the way, we're going to have all the links, in the show notes and things for people to have easy access. But I feel like just getting back to even earlier when you were saying, right, as an entrepreneur, and there are definitely entrepreneurs that listen, and obviously I fall in that category too, right? And the thing that I have been very conscious of is like, I'm not gonna do this stupid, like, oh my gosh, I work all the time, and like as an entrepreneur you have to I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to it. And it's hard too, right? Because if your business isn't growing the way that you want it to grow, you can sell yourself.
Your business is never growing the way that you want it to grow.
Right, exactly. It's all right. Hence the inner critics. Hence the inner critic part. Right. 100%. But I'm not going down the alternative path. But I also have to be, not just because of the work of wanting to serve and support other people. Like, obviously this is, you're doing it for that too, right? Like this, you're not in this work if that's not where your heart is. But also, to me, it's like, like you were saying, like the people pleasing or whatever is in your history that drives some of these things that aren't serving, that get you into resentment. Like, I'm constantly like, am I doing this generous thing and am I going to regret it? Or like, I'm constantly doing that evaluation too, because I don't want to be in resentment, and I want my relationships to stay healthy. And that ranges from, my husband to my client to potential clients, whatever. Yeah.
I also don't take things from people that I know have a caveat. I'm really careful about that, because I know there's a few people in my life that are uber generous, but I know them well enough to know about how much they complain about how then people don't show up for them. And I'm like, that's not generosity. If I can't be generous without holding you to something, I'm not being generous. I'm giving to you with a sense of subconscious manipulation that now you owe me. That's not giving. And it's not people pleasing either. We think it is. We call it people pleasing, but it's very self-serving. Again, this isn't even an attack, because you do this because it's what kept you safe.
Right.
This is a coping mechanism. I get it. But I don't play with people like that anymore. No, I don't want your coaching for free if you're going to hold it over my head for the next 3 years. Don't make me that offer. So I don't do it to other people either. I'm not going to make you an offer that's going to make me irritated with you.
This is super powerful. And I hope people pause and hit rewind and listen to that 45 seconds again, because these are very fine lines, right? Between generosity, between strings attached, between relationship building, but in a manipulative, not honest, and kind way. Like this is so. This is like everything. Like mic drop on this whole freaking podcast interview. I'm so excited. It's so. And you know what? And I was thinking about this because when we first met, and I was doing Talk About It Tuesday, and I said, "Hey, would you like to be on Talk About It Tuesday?" And you were like, "I can't," because you were going to school, I think at the time. You were right, and I was like, "Yeah, thank you." Yeah, sure. There was a part of me that was like, "Oh, that sucks. Like, I really want to have her on," right? And there was another part of me that's like, "Go, you. Like, you're not overcommitting, you know." And obviously, as a burnout like coach, you got to practice what you preach,
You
you
do.
know. And I'm sure it's ongoing. Like it's ongoing with me and my inner critics. Like it's like you're always working on it, right?
Always working on it. And saying no to things like that is never, and I don't believe in the statement, no is a complete sentence most of the time. There are moments that it is, but I think most of the time we are asking people for grace and not giving them any reason.
Mm.
So yeah, I said no.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
But because I'm in school right now and I do not have the capacity.
Yeah.
I just don't have it. And so I'm
Yeah.
going to come and do a shitty job.
And then divine timing comes, and here you are on the
Yeah, and
Unlock
here we
Lab.
are.
It's
Exactly.
perfect. You know, one thing I want to add to that, because like in a very tangential, like, you know, actually it's like kind of parallel path, right? Is like I used to say no, let's just we're whatever, and I would leave it at that, and I wouldn't go into the thing. And then I've realized too, part of me stepping into my power and part of me being in full alignment of my truth is me being able to expand on that and say, you know what, this is a no, and let me tell you why. Because I deserve to be able to express it. The kind thing is for you to be able to know it, and you can make a different choice, right? Like for whatever the thing is, right?
Or whatever the thing is. And not everybody deserves your story, right?
Right,
And
right.
so we're not saying that this is how you talk to every single person. And we're not saying, but if there is a situation in which you have a desire to be granted some grace or forgiveness or understanding, you have to give people something to understand or forgive or be gracious toward. I think it would be it would be a lovely world if we didn't need to do this for each other. If everybody just gave each other grace all day, every day. But let me tell you, when somebody cuts me off on the highway, I'm not gracious.
Right. And I will add to that list, right? That expressing your values and being clear about, right? Because in the case that where I'm talking, right, it was about like we just don't have aligned values, and I'm going to express what my values are, so you know why this isn't something you're going to come back to me with, because we aren't on the same page, and that's okay.
I love that, because you didn't do what one of my number one boundary rules is: if you're going to set a boundary, there should be no wiggle room, and wiggle room is not right now.
Right. It's actually a not ever.
Yeah.
And I still have love for you, and I wish you the best. And this is going to be a not ever thing.
Yeah. And that means that you shut down. Maybe there's some disappointment, and maybe you feel a little bit of guilt, and maybe they feel a little bit of disappointment, but you're honest with one another, and you don't have to wait for them to ask again so that you can say no again.
Because then the universe is just keep giving you the same lessons because you haven't quite learned the things that they're talking about here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so in honor of boundaries, I know we're coming up on our time. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you're like, I really want to say this? Or anything you want to share that we haven't gotten to?
There's so many things, because I could talk about this for a lifetime. But something that's really critical is this: if you feel like you are quite possibly burnt out, do not burnout prevention. They do not work when you are already burnout recovery, and burnout prevention are not the same Burnout prevention is stress management. End of story. Burnout recovery requires you to increase feelings of safety in your body, allow your brain, there's all sorts of things that happened to your brain when you burnt out, that those increased feelings of safety allow your brain to restructure itself and allow neurons to grow back where they need to be. Requires practicing a new operating system, a new way of being in the world that is going to be very uncomfortable for you at first. It requires just a lot of different ideas than burnout prevention. And one of the big things in between is if you are burnt out and someone tells you to do a gratitude practice, you have my full permission to punch them in the throat. When you are burnt out, you cannot feel gratitude very easily. It's a really complicated emotion for you to find. So a coach tells you, oh, well, write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. And you write down a list. You're like very diligently like 1, 2, 3, home, partner, family, but you feel nothing. And then you feel guilty that you don't feel anything for these things that you have in your life that you're supposed to be grateful for. And the whole world keeps telling you that if you have enough gratitude, that everything will come. I mean, it's a disaster. If you do not feel gratitude and it is not working for you right now, permission to drop it granted. This is when we tap into resentment. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's available and it can change your GD life.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. Thank you for, again, the generosity of your information and your sharing the big difference between prevention and recovery. And I love just you reiterating, right? Like it's not your fault, like that we don't have to then beat ourselves up on top of we're already beat down. So thank you for that. Thank you for saying yes to being on this podcast, and remind folks again where we have Fried the Burnout podcast and anywhere else that they should go to find your content or to reach out.
They can find everything from there.
Everything from the podcast.
I like it. I like to make it easy for people.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that divine timing is such that you're now on this platform sharing with this audience. And I'm grateful for you and look forward to seeing you around the corners that we meet in all of our
or on a shared stage.
Yes, yeah, or a shared stage, even better. Oh, let's put that in the universe. I love that. That would be amazing. And I love, Cait, that there's nuance, right? And it's not just this or just that, or like the gratitude thing may not work for you, and it's so case specific. I love that you share that because it's the same in my work, right? It's like, I don't know your formula. Like your transformation journey is going to look very different based on where you are and what you're experiencing. And this may not resonate for you and something else might. And it's that journey of finding it, right? Like when you started, like you looked at this information and there was nothing there that said, this is me. And so thank you for bringing that to light, because I think it's really important for people to hear, like, all this shoulds and advice you get mean nothing until you honor what actually raises your own eyebrow or what feels like your best next step.
Amen.
As you pursue transformation. Thank you. I'll see you next time.